Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be continuing our journey through the Lord of the Rings trilogy and focusing specifically on the climactic battle that takes place at Helm's Deep during the Two Towers. So stick around through this intro and we'll get started. My name's Austin and this channel is all about digging deeper and going further to better understand faith and film and everything that's in between. If that sounds exciting to you, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any new content. The battle for Helm's Deep is my personal favorite battle in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that's primarily because of the beautiful climax that we reach as the battle is nearly over. The majority of the fortress of Helm's Deep has been overtaken by Uruk-hai, and King Theoden has all but given up. He exclaims to Aragorn, "So much death! What can men do against such reckless hate?" Now up until this point in the battle, Theoden's kind of been the one with hope that this fortress will never fall. But now that he's seen the destruction before him, his and Aragorn's roles almost kind of switched, because Aragorn kind of knew there really wasn't much they could do. They could give their best, but they probably weren't going to win. So now Theoden's kind of given up hope, and Aragorn has to come in to encourage him. And Aragorn responds with words of hope saying, "Ride out with me, ride out and meet them." Now I'm reminded of two specific kind of Bible verses here. The first one is Proverbs 8:24, which says, "A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." This is a very familiar verse, but I think it speaks very much into the situation that's happening here, in that Theoden has all these companions, but seeing that Aragorn is willing to stick that closer than a brother type relationship, and though this may be their last stand, it's going to be a strong one. And the second verse that I'm kind of reminded of is there's a situation in 2 Chronicles. Specifically, the verse I'm looking at is in chapter 32 verse 7. There's a verse that says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be dismayed because the king of Assyria, nor because of the horde that is with him. For the one who is with us is greater than the one with him." This verse really jumped out at me because I'm not overly familiar with the story, but I thought it spoke very well to the situation that's happening here. Obviously, there is, in a way, the king being Sauron, and he has his horde of Uruk-hai that are just overwhelming this fortress. So it's a very similar situation to what happened in this section of the Bible. And people need to be reminded that, yes, there's this strong, overwhelming horde, but the one that is with them is stronger than the one that is with the enemy. And I'll touch on that again in a moment. So Theoden responds by saying, "For death and glory," to which Aragorn says, "For Rohan, for your people." Now, I may be wrong in this interpretation, but I always felt that Theoden's response was kind of in reference to himself, saying he would ride out for death and glory, and that's how he would be remembered. Where Aragorn's response reminds them that they're not fighting for themselves. They're fighting for their people and their nation. And I think sometimes we need to remember that as Christians too. It's easy to become self-focused and self-centered in wanting to do things for ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with doing things for the benefit and growth and development of ourselves from time to time, but we need to remember that we are here to live lives in glory of God and for other people. We are here for the race of humanity to help bring them salvation. So Gimli then comes in and brings it all home. He turns, looks to the window and says, "The sun is rising." Aragorn is reminded of the words of Gandalf from a few days before, where he said, "On the 5th day, at dawn, look to the east." So they ride out and face the enemy, and Gandalf comes as the sun rises over the mountain and rides down the hill with the Rohirrim. And this whole kind of scenario reminds me a little bit of Revelation, in that Gandalf's coming down on this white horse leading the way, very, in my opinion, symbolic of what will happen in Revelation when Jesus comes in riding on a white horse to save the day. Or similarly in the Bible with when Jesus is crucified, the promise of his return and resurrection. Just like I said with Gimli saying the sun is rising. There are kind of overlaps and relations to when the disciples, probably right after the crucifixion, were just completely lacking in hope in many ways, but they were reminded of the promise of Jesus' resurrection and return. And similarly, Gandalf had already resurrected at this point, but Aragorn remembers his words, remembers the promise of his return, looks to the east, and the sun rises, shines, and is so powerful that the enemy doesn't even stand a chance. So that wraps up looking at the Battle of Helm's Deep. We have probably one more video that we're going to do going into depth on a scene from the Two Towers. And then after that, we're going to be moving into Return of the King. And just because I don't say it too often, thank you for everyone who has kind of joined the channel recently. We've had a lot of growth over the past couple months or so on the channel. We've just reached 400 subscribers, which is amazing. We only just reached 300. It felt like just a month or so ago. And so I'm super excited to see all this growth lately. I just did last week a Christian kind of themes look at the movie Tenet, and upcoming I'd love to do one on something like WandaVision and perhaps the new Pixar movie Soul. So if that's something you guys are interested in, be sure to sound off in the comments so I know how soon to get that kind of stuff out to you. So thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. Thank you for being a part of this community. I love seeing the growth. I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.